What's going on, people? It's your boy Dre, and right now I'm gonna talk about Gen 3 Glock versus Gen 4 Glock. Now, I got a chance to take my Gen 4 Glock 23 to the range, and I ran it up against this Gen 3 Glock 22, and I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna tell you what I came up with, what I noticed that was a lot different, and I'll let you be able to make your decision based off this information that I came up with. Now, and I got my baby Glock out here, and for starters, what I will say is, if you considering getting a Gen 3 or a Gen 4 Glock, baby Glock, what I will say is, if you want the bigger mag release, and if you want the interchangeable back straps, that'll be the definite deal breaker for you for that. But everything else about this baby Glock, I feel like that if I was to go into if I didn't have one and I knew the things that I know now, I would really have to sit down and think about whether to get Gen 3 or Gen 4. But when it comes to a bigger size, from a compact and full size, I'm hands down Gen 4 as far as what I want out of what Glock has done with these pistols. Now, for starters, what I will say is this. You know, pretty much from the design, you're not going to get too much different from the actual look. Only thing different about the look that you're going to get is pretty much you have Gen 4. Why am I trying to show you this? This is mirrored. But you had Gen 4 painted on the, well, not painted, but it's engraved in the slide. And everything else pretty much about the pistol is the exact same. And maybe the finish on the slide is different, and the texture on the grip. But as far as when you look at it, I mean, you know, when I hold this up, I'm holding a Glock. You know, if you're familiar with a Glock, you know that this is a Glock. You know, Gen 3, Gen 4 Glock is pretty much a Glock. Now, as far as the grip is concerned, the 3 backstrap system, I think that's genius, because now out the box you have the smaller grip, and you know, if the third gens were too big for your hand, you out the box, the back strap that comes on it, well, just the actual handle, because the other 2 are back straps. If you need it to be a little bit beefier or chunkier, the handle straight out the box is a lot slimmer towards the bottom than the old Gen 3 Glocks. You know, and pretty much I heard a lot of people to complain about Glocks being chunky, and the Gen 4 Glock is less chunky than the Gen 3 Glock. Trigger, you're pretty much dealing with the exact same trigger, safe action pistol, safe action trigger. You know, with the trigger guard, safety, same thing. They didn't change much there. You get the bigger mag release, definitely on the Gen 4. I get a better mag drop on my Gen 4 than I do on Gen 3. Also, the deal breaker for me is the actual recoil. I'm gonna tell you, and I'm finna show you why. And I'm gonna tell you this: my Gen 4 Glock 22. I ran some shots through it. Then I ran some shots through this. Wait a minute. I hope I said Gen 3. Gen 3 Glock 22 versus my Gen 4 Glock 23. That dual recoil spring that the Glock put in the Gen 4 pretty much would make this a hands down decision as far as what I want is concerned. And this is what I mean. Here's my Gen. There's the Gen 2. There's the Gen 3 spring on my Glock 22. And there's the Gen 4 spring on my Glock 23. Let me tell you that what another thing that I noticed. And I ran some shots through my Glock 27. And my Glock 22 kicks harder. My Gen 3 Glock 22 kicks harder than my Gen 3 Glock 27. And this is why. It's pretty much this single spring. This single spring is pretty much these dual recoil springs. Well, this is a dual recoil spring from the 23. I don't know if this is the actual dual recoil spring, because in here you can see that there's something behind the actual spring there. So I figured that will factor into what they call dual recoil. This is just more like a double spring, you know, with like an enforcer behind it. Whatever the case may be, with this individual spring, this had this Glock 22 for some reason feeling like it was, compared to my Glock 23, about the feeling as if it was about to fly out of my hand. And I'm like, and the only thing I could come up with is definitely the spring, because I put some shots through my 22, then I shot my 23, then I picked my 22 back up and shot it, and I was like, damn, it's kicking hard. So I put some in my 27, and I'm like, this ain't as kicking as hard as my 22, and this is a subcompact. So I really got to thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, this spring, the dual recoil spring that they've included in the Gen 4, make the Gen 4 for me a definite choice if you're going with the larger pistol. I mean, because you already heard a 40 snappy recoil, and that single spring is not doing anything to help it. But this dual recoil spring, I think that does wonders for a 40 caliber, at least with Glock. But I absolutely love the Gen 4 Glock 23. I love it. I called it Glock Jordan when I first got it, and it's definitely lived up to the name of Glock Jordan. And the reason I call it Glock Jordan is because it's not too big, it's not too little. It's a really good caliber with 40. You know, you can conceal this. You can have this as a home defense. It should be big enough to use in the competition. I mean, I'll put it like this. This is probably the smallest gun you'll probably want to use in competition. But I'm just saying, it's big enough. It's big enough for you to take it into consideration. I mean, it's just it does everything right. From being the least chunky, not very long. I mean, this gun, honestly, I feel like this is perfect. There's nothing that's wrong with a Glock, with a compact Glock. And I feel like the same thing I could probably say about the 19, but I don't have 9mm, but I had this Glock 23. I feel like this is Glock Jordan because I feel like it doesn't do anything wrong. At least from what you purchase a firearm for, or the potential situations you could use it in. Glock 23, hands down, the best. For my preference, the compact Glock is the best Glock that you can purchase. My personal preference. I love the subcompact Glock, but you know, like I said, when I look at this, I'm really thinking it's concealed carry, and you know, Glock 22, you know, that's for this is definitely for home defense. You know what I mean? And with a round capacity of 13 rounds versus the full size is 15 rounds, that's not bad. That's not bad. So definitely, if you're in the market for a Glock 22 or Glock 23, definitely go with the Gen 4, because for one, the Gen 3s, they come with 2 mags. The Gen 4s, they all come with 3 mags. Gen 3s come with that single spring. Gen 4s come with that dual recoil spring, and I feel like that just makes the Gen 4 a hands down better purchase than the Gen 3. At least from my experience, I've heard that with the 9mm they had some issues with the with Glocks jamming. I haven't heard the same about the actual Gen 4 Glock 23. I actually heard the guy on the Armory channel. He said he grabbed the Glock 23 Gen 4 and he was jamming. But so far as what I've heard, he's been the only one that I've heard with that issue. But you know, anything that's man-made has potential to mess up. But if I make a recommendation based off my experience and what these guns are made to do, and if you get a functional gun I'm willing to say that 95% of the Glocks that come out work, I'm definitely recommending Gen 4 compact and full size over Gen 3. But if you make it to subcompact, I think that right there you could flip a coin. But I still think that having the multiple back straps and having that third magazine would still make Gen 4 a better selection for the Glock subcompact Glock. But it's from a grip standpoint, I can get a good grip on this Gen 3, and I'm pretty sure I could get a better grip on the Gen 4. But the actual recoil, the important thing shooting this right here, it handles the recoil, whatever this dual recoil like or reinforced spring in the Gen 3, that's sufficient enough to make this recoil not as noticeably different as from when I shot my Gen 4 23 and picked up this Gen 3 22. You know what I mean? Because this right here, my hand is actually still a bit sore when I squeeze it. And that's pretty much mostly from my 22, because I was like, after I shot my 23 and then shot my 22, and I was feeling this like, damn, seems like you're beating the shit out of my hand. But definitely, if you want to get you a Glock, definitely look into the Gen 4. Only thing that could probably turn you off, I feel like maybe the texture of the grip. That was one thing when I first picked up the Gen 4, and I was like, I don't know if I want this texture. But if you have a sweaty hand, because I have sweaty hands, just really, when I ran my Glock 23 hard, my hand started sweating and it didn't shift. I ran my Glock 22 hard, hands start sweating, and I had to readjust a few times. So I just think that Glock took everything that was wrong with the Gen 3 and made it better with Gen 4. And definitely, I mean, now if you're just a collector and you want to pick up the Gen 3 because you have a Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, and you want to have Gen 4, go ahead and pick that up. But if you want to make one solid purchase, I'm definitely recommending Gen 4 over Gen 3.